Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my wasabi plants here. So I made a video previously, it came out in July last year, and I just got these plants. They were very small plug plants. I got them back in April time of 2021, and they're very small plug plants. I then put them into 3 different growing mediums because I wanted to see which growing medium the plants would like the best. So I had one that was just basically multi-purpose compost, another one which was just mostly soil from my garden, and then one that was kind of a mixture with a bit of perlite mixed in for extra drainage. And they all seemed to grow fairly well, but the one that definitely did the best was the one with just rich multi-purpose compost. They really seemed to like the high nitrogen levels. So what I then did is I put them all into the same growing medium, which I just used a mixture of soil from my garden and multi-purpose compost, and then gave them a nice high nitrogen feed. And they did grow quite well last year. I had them in a shady position. So what they did most of the summer is they didn't actually grow too many leaves, but they just put all that energy that they were gathering from the sun into growing some stem. So with wasabi, what they do is they grow over the summer. They put out lots of leaves in spring. They then gather all the energy all summer long, and they use that to thicken up their stems to produce a thick stem. That's what stores all the energy, and then they use that next year for flowering or for putting on more growth. So it's the stem you actually want to grow in the long term for use as wasabi. That's what you grate. But you can see in this one, for example, this is probably one of the biggest out of the 3. You can see there's a decent sized stem starting to form there, so if I wanted to I could actually start grating that down and making wasabi, but I want to grow these plants bigger and maybe divide them in the future as well. So I'll grow them for another year or so before I start to harvest, but you can see there's a decent sized stem there, and that's got a lot of energy stored up. So with these coming back into growth, they should grow quite rapidly and grow much bigger this year. So over the autumn I had them outside for most of the time. I only brought them in with the coldest frosts. I think we had about -6 one night. It hasn't been too cold this winter, but I did bring them in for the coldest spell, and they were mostly deciduous. Most of the leaves had died off. You can see some of the older leaves, maybe these ones that were eaten by slugs, and some of the yellowing ones. But in the last few weeks they've really started to grow again. So wasabi is a bit of a strange plant. It likes very low temperatures. It likes temperatures around 10 or 15 degrees most of the time. It doesn't do well in high temperatures over 20 degrees Celsius, but it doesn't like hard frost either. So it did fine in the winter. I just sheltered it from the very hardest of frosts. -2 or 3, it's not a problem for it. And even though we haven't had any warm temperatures really, the warmest it's been is about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, and most nights we're still getting a frost. Although it's quite cold still, these have put on all these new leaves in just the last few weeks, and they're looking really healthy now, growing quite rapidly. It's actually the 1st of March today, so that just gives you an example of how early these are. The rest of the plants in the garden, apart from the very earliest spring bulbs like crocuses and snowdrops, all the other plants are just still dormant. We actually had snow last week, quite a bit of snow. These are still growing fine. They don't mind the cold weather. These are definitely coming into growth now. I was trying to stop them from growing too much because we can still get a hard frost later in the year, and I'll have to shelter them if we do get a hard frost, but they've just decided that it's time for them to grow, so I'm just going to have to repot them now and let them grow. So at the moment they're in a 1 litre pot. I'm going to probably put them up to a 2 or 3 litre pot, give them the space they need. I'm going to give them some rich multi-purpose compost with a little bit of my topsoil mixed in, and give it a high nitrogen feed, because what I want to do now is encourage it to grow really big leaves and really get the nice leaf coverage, because there's the leaves that then gather the energy for the stem growth over the summertime. So what I'll expect from these is loads of leaf growth in the next few months, and then over summer the growth will slow down and they'll just be thickening up their stems ready for next year. And one interesting thing that's going to happen this year is I'm going to have quite a lot of flowers on these plants. So they tend to flower out the sides. So you can see here in between the leaves you get these shoots coming up, and these are the little flower buds there. So they will have flowers. You can see here's another one. There'll be quite a lot of flowers be forming on this. The flower stems do grow quite long, so they're very small at the moment, but they'll be coming up above the leaves in a few weeks' time. And if they get pollinated, I will be trying to collect the seeds, and I'll try germinating some of the plants from seed. Now when it comes to wasabi seeds, they're very small and the germination rate isn't great, so it'll be interesting to see if I can get any plants from that. Normally people just divide the plants and they don't actually grow them from seed. And if you do see wasabi seeds for sale online, it's not normally the true wasabi. It's normally like a peppery mustard or something else, not the actual true wasabi plant. So what I'm going to do now is put these into a bigger pot, give them a high nitrogen feed. I'll keep them in a fairly sunny location for now, just because here in Scotland we don't have very strong sunlight. And then come late March, I'll then put them in a shady location where they only get light first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening, and I'll avoid all midday sun. At the moment here in Scotland, in very early March, the sun isn't too strong yet, so direct sunlight is still alright. But if you're anywhere else in the world, you really want to keep them shaded because they don't like high light levels. So with some of these plants, I could actually start to divide them. This one, for example, you can see this is pretty much 2 plants already. There could even be a third one trying to sprout there, so I could divide them, but I'm going to leave them for now as just clumps. This is another one where there's an offshoot starting. I'm going to let these offshoots get a little bit bigger, and then maybe come winter when they're dormant next year, I might try separating them and just increasing my number of plants. And I'd like to try growing some of these outside in the ground as well, because they've done so well for me in pots. They should do well outside in the ground. Although wasabi is grown out in Japan in riverbeds and free-flowing water, they can grow quite well if they're just in damp soil. You won't get the best, most flavours from wasabi, but they will still grow healthy, as you can see with these plants. These are just in multi-purpose compost mixed with topsoil, and they're looking really healthy, and they've been growing really well so far. And I'll also probably eat a few of the leaves this year. The leaves are nice and peppery. Although it's not as strong as the stem, I'll still get some nice peppery leaves which they can use for salad and other things. So that's about it for this update. Just a very quick video to give you guys an update of how my plants are doing. I'll probably do another update in a few weeks time, or a few months, when the flowers have set and I've got some seeds, and we'll see if I can germinate any wasabi.